Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe. Now read up by Disney, or current Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it. Legends. I can't believe that this has kind of become my thing. I've said that before. It's just the tagline I use now. It's just what I do. It's my intro. Anyway, today I have for you Fate of the Jedi, Book 8, Ascension, by Christie Golden. We only have one more after this, folks. Then we will have finished the final big series in the post-Return of the Jedi novels, at least. We still have quite a bit to go before we're officially done with the end of the timeline. But of course, I still have all this stuff in the past to get through. I don't know if you can tell. I fully enjoyed this one. As I said, I still think all the stuff in the previous books was necessary. I just didn't care for all of it and how long it took to get to certain places. Non-spoiler wise, this is a bit weird because the book, to me, felt a lot longer than it was because of how much is going on in it. So the beginning of it mostly focuses on Gabra Kai and the Lost Tribe of the Sith, which this finally made me actually start liking the Lost Tribe of Sith a bit more, made me more interested. Not too much. It's still, like, this book gets major points for other reasons, which we'll get into in non-spoiler, because it's not too big of a spoiler, but... So it focuses on that, and then Abeloth, of course. This is probably the most we've actually gotten to see a newer mindset than any other book, so that was nice. Then we move to Vistera, Jaina, Ben, Luke, as they go to visit ancient Jedi places, Sith places, to try to figure out where Abeloth and the Lost Tribe are hiding. Now, this is the part where they get major points, because this part of the book still is kind of a side quest. I mean, there is important stuff that happens during this time, but it is a side quest. But I guess the difference is that the Dathomir stuff, I've already seen it, and none of the characters found particularly interesting. Now, Lost Sith places, I love. We go to Korriban again. You know how many times I've seen that place now? I've seen it in Knights of the Old Republic. I'm sure I'll see it again when I get to the comics in the past. I love that place, and I can visualize it so perfectly. There's other stuff like I have by what the book determines, and that kind of like just comes up in my head. But we have actual visuals for that place, so it was cool. We go see the Kyle Katarn place where it became dark for a little bit, and Mara had to stop him. So cool. But so that's a small section of the book. A good portion of the book actually just sticks to Coruscant again, with all the politics going on, with the Moffs, with the Jedi deciding they're going to leave Coruscant because Luke is parted and he's finally able to come back. He's like, we're done. We're not going to be part of the Galactic Alliance, and everything going on there. Then we also have Dala and what she is up to. And then basically set up for the very end of this story, for the grand finale. So that is basically it. I know I'm always kind of vague with these series, I guess, because I feel like it's an entire series, so it's harder to be non-spoilerish within book 8 in a series. So it might be easier to do this stuff once it's like just one-off books. I don't know. But anyway, that's kind of all I can really say non-spoiler. I mean, I'm sure I could say a bit more, but I'm not exactly sure what else to tell you. It's book 8 in a 9-book series. I would hope that if you're this far into it, reading this, that you're gonna, or that if you've read the past 7, that you're hopefully gonna read this and then read the final one. This so far, I still feel like it drags a bit here and there, but this one is probably my favorite book in the entire series thus far. even though the stuff earlier on in the in the series dealing with like Jason Solo and stuff, of course, because I love Jason, and learning more about that was epic. But here we are, so yeah, I'm gonna get into spoilers now. So if you don't want spoilers, haven't read this yet, it is time for you to go. Or if you just don't care, of course. And then those for you who have already read this series, join me as I talk about some of the stuff I found interesting in spoilers. So, the Sith Council and Gavra Kai, and their thoughts, because they have this council meeting, everything, they're discussing things. And this is the first time I was like, oh, I'm actually getting, they showed their culture a bit and stuff in the second book, Omen, because half the book is just focusing on Vistera before they found Ship. But, I actually found it sort of interesting here. I still am not a big fan of the Lost Tribe, the Sith concept, like having this Sith that have been just marooned on this planet for 5,000 years and nothing's ever happened to them, between no ships shown up to them. I guess their galaxy is a big place, so I'm sure there are a lot of places that are still unexplored. But I don't know, because you still have the one Sith, and that's another thing. That's something that's not brought up. I wonder if it'll be brought up in the next one. I do know it's spoiled that Darth Krayt shows up at least for a second at the end of the finale. So I only mention that right now because last time I saw the one Sith, they were chilling on Korriban when Alema goes over there and goes talk to some of the acolytes, I guess, or followers of that. And Luke, Ben, Vistera, and Jaina were all there, and they most definitely sensed it, unless they're not there. So I wonder how that's going to play out. Like I said, you have them in the background, just being the shadows right now. So they're still a thing right now. Then you have the Lost Tribe. Then you have Abeloth. Then you have everything with the Moffs. It just feels like a whole. And then even the slave stuff with the Hutts, which I've watched a bunch of More Civilized Age. Don't know what that is. Time to go check out Matt Wilkins. But he talked about what might have been, or what, people were, or what he speculated might be about and everything, and other people speculated. And it seems like they were going to maybe have some sort of story with, like, the Hutts and stuff and slavery, which that seems like it's being set up for something, maybe, but we'll never know, because it didn't get continued. But it just feels really cluttered with this Lost Tribe who are just here now, and to me, they don't feel like Sith. They feel like I said before, they feel like a Saturday morning cartoon. I just don't care about them. But like I said, in this scene, I was like, oh, okay, I'm kind of interested now. So I went from being indifferent to be like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. I still don't particularly like them or think they're that interesting, but I cared about it more than I did before. Plus, I got a bit more personal with Gavra Kai. We got to know more about his thoughts, which was a really good part, especially considering what happens. They have Abeloth shows up, and so they have a grand party, a grand feast for Abeloth. And here, I've said it before, but you really notice that she just adores attention. She's like that high school girlfriend that needs to be the center of your life. Which, be forewarned, despite what romantic movies will tell you, your significant other should not be the center of your life. They should be a big part of it, but should not be the center of your life. Because I think that's a bit unhealthy. But they should be a very important part of your life. But what do I know? I'm 20. But I don't know. I think if you're religious, that, God, top tier, and then your family, other stuff, yourself, very last. Yourself should be the very last. But anyway, my point is, she's a very needy being. She needs to be adored, she needs to be loved, she needs to be worshipped. And whenever she doesn't have that, she gets a little hissy fit. This is what it seems like. And she is a very lonely being, again, we still have not gotten any backstory on her. I don't know if that's going to happen in the final book or if that's in like some sort of source book or something, because I know, because YouTube exists, so I know her backstory before I actually read this, which if it explains the next book, I'll feel kind of bad that I know it. But, there's just some things you just kind of overhear when you're trying to learn about the EU. Sort of like I knew Jason Solo would fall. Like, that was like, oh no, he became bad. Because, I came to the EU after having read or watched the sequels. And, what was one of the first things I heard about when, like, researching about the EU? Kylo Ren is just a knockoff of Jason Solo. And I was like, oh, okay. But so that was one of the things I knew, was her backstory and how it ties into the Clone Wars TV series. But still, she's, I guess it's a good thing that we don't get to explore her mind too much. We get a bit of it in here, but it works for the more Lovecraftian aspect of her character. If you don't know what Lovecraftian is, it's based off of the name Lovecraft. H.P. Lovecraft was a writer in like the 1920s, kind of a xenophobic guy, but it's okay because he wrote some good stories, which are always about like extraterrestrial or interdimensional monsters, abominations that you can't possibly understand, and the more you try to understand it, your mind just dies. So yeah, it's good that they're keeping her kind of mysterious, because she's just something unlike anything Star Wars usually deals with. So I'm enjoying it, though I do hope we get a bit more of her backstory in the next one. And I hope she really kicks some butt and kills some people. Now, like, I don't want heroes to die, but she's barely done anything this series. And as for the Comet, they said she could be worse than the Yusong Vong War. Like, she could cause more death and destruction and mayhem. So far, she seemed like she's such a non-threat that she's been in the background of every freaking book so far, and other things have taken precedent. So if she really is such a big threat, they better show it in that finale. That's all I'm saying. The main big bad Sith Lord of the Lost Tribe gets attacked by Abeloth in a dream, but he manages to fight her off by like telling her how much of a loser you are. No one loves you. No one cares about you. You suck. Just like ruining her self-esteem, and it somehow stops her from killing him in dream form because she did a Freddy Krueger on the guy. I don't know how she did that. It was never really explained, but she gets pissed, and so she goes and attacks like one of the cities on Kesh, which is the home planet of the Lost Tribe of Sith, or became their home planet, I should say. And there's this part where it describes what's happening to the people, and it says that their skin gets turned inside out, just like really gross stuff like that. Like, you'd make the Vong proud with how gross the description was. And yeah, that was crazy. But Gavra Kai, Vistera's father, betrays his entire people to side with Abeloth because he's like, look, no one can match her, so it's better that I stick with her. I'm going to lie to myself. I'm going to lie to my crew. We all better just believe that we did the right thing, because it's better than feeling like we're the evil ones now for betraying our people. So that happens. We find out also in this book that Lesserin, the Moth, he started Freedom Flight. He tells his other conspirators, oh yeah, there's nothing altruistic about his motive in doing so. He did it to distract Dala from other things so that he can move forward with his plans. And then, of course, we get into what Luke, Vistera, Ben, and Jaina are up to, and they go to Korriban. Just having it described again was great. Made me instantly go back to KOTOR, where Revan and your party members go and visit that planet, and go and visit that valley. So did Darth Bane. So did so many Sith. Pretty sure I know Darth Krayt did, but so many people visit this place. It's crazy, and it's just steeped in darkness. And Vistera's entire arc in this book is my favorite part. Somebody once said that I seem to be very enamored with characters and care less about plot, and I guess they're right. It's not that I don't care about plot, as I've said before. I would prefer that both be great, but characters are my end all, because as long as a character is good, it can usually save the rest of the story for me, which is probably why I enjoy Legacy of the Force so much more than this, just because we get to see Jason, we get to see his conflicting emotions, his desire to do what's right, and then, his fall from grace, and, we just, I don't know, it's just so very character driven, and I love that. Here, I never really cared about, Vistera, and I guess maybe it's intended. As the series has gone on, I've slowly been opening more and more up to her, though still not really caring about her. But this book made me go have a 180. Like, I love her now. She is one of my favorite characters. It took a really long time for me, but I do really enjoy her now, and I enjoy the struggle she's going through to try to do what's right, to try to be good. But she doesn't know what she wants, but she likes Ben, and I don't think she's completely Sith, like how the end of the book kind of describes it. She's really conflicted, and I think there's a lot of things she agrees with the Sith on, and there's also a lot of things with the Jedi she agrees on, so she seems maybe more of a gray, though leaning dark, but I really enjoy her character now. It took 8 books, but I finally like her. Boba Fett, is with Dala, because in the last book, he saved her. And he's willing to continue to help Dala as much as he can, so long as she helps him, when she's in power, find a cure for the virus that affected him and his daughter during Legacy of the Force. Because he's still Mandalore, but he can't go back to his people while that virus is in his system. He needs to find a cure so he can go back to the planet. And so he promises Dala, I'll continue helping you so long, because the deal was to simply help her escape, but he's willing to do even more so long as she helps him find a cure when she's in power. We get a Dark Forces mention, as after they leave Korriban, they go to the other place. I forget what it was called, but the place where Kyle Katarn, I think it was in like a expansion pack DLC thing for Dark Forces 2, where Kyle Katarn is being this temporary master to Mara Jade, and he ends up turning dark at this place, and Mara has to turn him back to light. And so they explore that place, and that was nice to see that place again. This is my favorite scene of the entire book. Also, I just want to mention, I know some people have messaged me, and they're like, you don't talk about every chapter bit by bit, and it's like, yeah, because it's my first time through. If I was doing like a book club or something, maybe I would do that, but this is my first experience with it, and so I just write down what I feel is either important or something that I personally really liked, and I expect people that have already read this book to know about the parts I'm talking about. But the Vistera and Ben confrontation. Vistera has been writing fake letters about her dad as if she was a Jedi apprentice and her dad was a Jedi master. And she's been writing these letters to herself because she's having all these conflicting teenage emotions and stuff, right? Trying to figure out who she wants to be. Ben comes in, sees her typing, right? Or however it's working. Assumes the worst. Assumes that she's betraying them, telling information to the Sith. And so they argue, and Ben doesn't slap her with his hand. but he slaps her with a force. And he's pissed at her. And she's crying and she's upset. And she tells him, go and read it. Or no, sorry. She doesn't want him to read it because it's really personal. But he can't trust her. He has to read it. So eventually she relents and she's like, fine, read it. And once he notices that it is personal, he's like, I'm sorry, we don't have to. And she's like, no, you're going to finish it. Read all of it. And then he apologizes. He embraces her. And it's a very nice moment. And then finally they kiss. And the whole scene, like, I can envision it in a movie, that it'd be the first time that Star Wars could have an Academy Award nominee scene. I could visualize it if it was done right. That'd be one of the most powerful scenes. Well, never mind that. If they were actually doing Legends movies justice, if they did Traitor, that whole movie would be, if it was done right, since most of it is just characters, would be phenomenal, because it's basically just conversations for most of the movie. Or if it was a movie, it'd be mostly conversations like the book. Oh, that'd be awesome. Anyway, but for this scene, I could just see it. I visualized it, saw them, and it was just so good. It was such an intense, emotional scene, and I absolutely loved it. Any indifference that I had toward Vistera went away with this book. That scene solidified my love for her as one of my favorite characters in the expanded universe. And now, next time I go through the books, maybe I'll see things differently when I read her character. Because it wasn't even really her. It was just her as part of the Lost Tribe as a whole. I just didn't care. But she has grown on me, and I adore her character and the development that, while at the time it felt really unnecessary and like it was just dragging on, all these books where I felt like, I don't care about you, but I've been growing to care about her since the books have continued. So, favorite scene in the book, really good. I don't remember which chapter it is, but it's that alone is worth getting this book. Kai versus Kai. Vistera's father shows up, but he's working for Abeloth now, so he's also betrayed the Sith anyway. But he fights his daughter, seemingly to the death, so she has to kill him. Which was hard enough, because at this point I've already fallen in love. Not romantically, I'm just saying, like, fallen in love with the character. And so now she has to kill her father. Which is tough. And that would have been a good enough scene on its own. But then, when Vistera is trying to keep together, what does Jaina say? To help her, I had to kill my brother. You bring all those memories back. And it was a good bit of dialogue and a good scene. It was good because it, furthered Vistera's character development and brought back memories of past stuff. Another thing, see, all this stuff is happening in one book, so honestly felt like I read two different stories, but it all happened in the span of one book, because so much goes on in here. Anyway, but they all eventually get back to the Coruscant. And Luke and Saba are talking. Saba's still not herself, really, because she's still dealing with the fact that she killed Ken. And, Luke has a discussion with her about what ifs. And he says, you're right, maybe if I was here, I would have done things differently. And maybe he wouldn't have died. But I wasn't here. You were here. And you did at the time what you thought was right. And so did Kent. And Kent died with no anger at you, knowing that you were only doing what you believed to be right. And that was just another good character scene that I appreciated and liked. Because Saba also is a really cool character. And of course, Luke tells the city of Coruscant and the galaxy that he is severing his ties with the government, with the Galactic Alliance. That the Jedi need to be independent so as not to be used and controlled by politicians and the government. Which is a similar thing that happened in the prequels, even though it was under the influence of a Sith Lord. Sorry, I just had to do this Samuel Jackson thing. But, no, I mean, even if Palpatine wasn't a Sith Lord, he was, the government had its hands in the Jedi because they were so complacent with the government that they weren't able to do anything outside of their, jurisdiction. They became generals and warriors for the Clone Wars, even though they, and that's the hypocrisy of the prequels. They said, Samuel L. Jackson, Mace Windu, he has the line, we're peacekeepers, not soldiers. But that's exactly what they became. The moment that they joined, the moment that they entered that war, and even before that, because they've kind of just been, following and helping the government for years, even before, Anakin and everyone shows up on the scene. And so, and that's, even why, Count Dooku leaves and stuff. But my point is, the reason I'm bringing this up, even though it's not completely relevant, is because that it again shows how different Luke is and how different his order is from past orders and probably future, though I don't know. I haven't read the future stuff yet. But that is why the old Jedi, the prequels, they failed, they lost. They're arrogant. They, believe that nothing could touch them. And they were lapdogs to the government, even though Jedi are supposed to be, for everyone. Unfortunately, there's also a Sith Lord who was able to he did purge them. But I just like that, Luke decides, this is best, because it's not the exact same situation. But again, you have the government, effectively controlling what the Jedi can and can't do. And Dala, basically, even though she doesn't want to be, she's kind of becoming a sort of Palpatine. Not exactly, of course, but... So I think it was a good decision on Luke's part to want to depart from being aligned with the government. Jaina has Jag over for dinner at one of Leia and Han's safe houses, only to find out that Tahiri's there, because since then she got into contact with Han and Leia. And she says, I'll still, go under trial and everything if that's what you think what's best. But they're basically asking Jag to take her for now. And so he does. He takes her to basically be on parole with him until they can figure things out. Luke's grand plan. So this was super cool. So he purposely goes on a show to tell everyone that, hey, I'm not going to be a part of this government anymore. Because he knows the Sith will hear about it. He does it so the Sith will all come to Coruscant. Because as the Vong thought, as the New Republic thought, as the Empire thought, as everyone seems to think, if you have control of Coruscant, you become in control of the galaxy. So he purposely orchestrates that. Doesn't tell Han, so he doesn't know, and that way the Sith can't realize what's going on. And he's hoping that he can take out Ship and Abeloth, come back, and then face the Sith and end them. And so I just thought that was quite a smart move on Skywalker's part, I guess. There's just a small scene between this guy, what's his name? Not Treen, it was Thrall. Yeah, I think it was Thrall and Jackson, who was one of the Moff people, or just part of the Empire, one or the other. Um, and I'm not going to really talk about the scene. There's nothing really worth of notice in there except for just how dark it was. I mean, there's a lot of dark things in post Episode 6 Star Wars, like when you have like the Vong and everything and all the things they do. But he's like, I know people, and you'll talk. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to write this suicide note. You can die quick and painlessly. Or you can refuse to do what I ask, and I will make it as awful as physically possible. And so he finishes up doing everything. He even starts to plead. He's like, please, we can work this out. He's like, no, we can't. Tells him to put the gun in his mouth, and so he does. And then he says, pull the trigger. I'll be here to watch you. And he does. It was just a really intense is the word, I guess, scene. And I think it was just really well done. The Dala versus Jag. This might have happened before. I might have went out of order in the notes. But Dala tries to have the Jag assassinated. Of course he's not. And then they have an awesome kind of like Civil War small battle in space. And it was just really cool. I love Jag. I always have since the first time I saw him in New Jedi Order. Which I guess is a very popular opinion. I really like Jag. I think he's really cool. He's kind of like the best parts of the Chiss while still having like the humanity and not being so closed off from everyone else. Which I really like about him. He has moments where he reminds me of Thrawn, yet he has moments where he reminds me of Pelion as well. And he also has moments where he reminds me of like Han Solo. So I don't know, he's kind of like this like weird amalgamation of different people that I've liked in Star Wars, and I think that's just part of the why I like him. But it was a really cool scene. Chief of State has a heart attack. The guy from Klaatuine becomes Chief of State. And he's trying his best. But then they have a meeting to get a new Chief of State. And he just all of a sudden gets a heart attack. And I knew they were talking about this lady. Her name is Roki. And she was very Sith-like. And yet, as the Sith guy said, he could not sense the Force in her. And so I already suspected, but it was confirmed for me near the end of the book when she sees Windorvin and she smiles, and then it spreads and spreads and spreads, and her appearance changes. Abeloth. And she has become Chief of State. She's using her Force influence to control things. And now she's going to make it a very, very anti-Jedi sort of term of her thing. Though she's trying to become Empress. Or not Empress, she's trying to become a goddess. She wants to, because, having people care about her is one thing, but being adored and worshipped by everyone is definitely what she'd prefer. All the Jedi go out to try to find Abeloth. Of course, they don't know that she's on Coruscant already. Ben, what's her name? Nuata, the falling Jedi, who was previously under the influence of Abeloth. She and Ben and Vistera go down there. At this point, Vistera's openly said, "I want to become a Jedi." And Ben is possibly going to die, and Vistera doesn't see a way to kill this beast down in this Sith ancient site. But it wants blood. It's either going to be hers, Ben's, or Nuata's. And she chooses not herself, which I thought might have been what happened. But that's not what happened. I thought we were going to lose her and it was going to be really sad. But we didn't lose her. She went back to the dark side and decided that Ben's life was more important than Nuada's. So she fights her, betrays her, lets the monster have her, and gets Ben out. Now, of course, that is a dark side thing to do. But also, they're not married or anything, but... And I know Luke probably wouldn't have made that decision, of course. But for everyday people, are you going to let the person you love, like if you're a husband or a wife, are you going to let your partner die? Are you really going to save, going to help the innocent? Try to save both of them and possibly get them all three of you killed? Because it's really easy to say, like, with not being in an experience, because I noticed that a lot, and I always try to keep that in mind with myself when it comes to real life stuff and other things. Like, it's easy to say, oh yeah, well, this is what I would do, until you're actually in that situation. Like, with, like, I don't know, anything, in war, cops, I'm not going to get into that, but, cops shooting somebody or something, and it's like, why don't you just do this or that, or, hindsight's also a fickle thing. It's easy to say stuff when you have, like, all this knowledge and stuff, surrounding it. In the moment, you have a split-second decision to make, right? Sometimes, like, if it's a matter of life and death, you have a split second. What do you do, right? It's not as easy to say stuff if you're actually in this situation. So I always try to keep that in mind with stuff. So it is a very dark side move. And the great thing is, she says I'm still Sith. But she also said she was Sith for a long time, and she never really seemed Sith. So there still might be redemption. I don't know. She might just go all bad. But it's a very human thing. And now Luke, of course, is a Grand Master, so he'd probably be able to, move beyond that and maybe save all of them, maybe just save and let his son be sacrificed, but I don't know. I don't even think Luke could willingly do that. He'd soon rather let all of them die than let Ben die. I don't know. But I definitely understand why she did it and how much she cares about Ben. Whether or not that will lead her further down the dark path, or whether there's still some way to be saved, I guess we'll see in the finale. But that is it for my notes on Fate of the Jedi, Book 8 Ascension by Christie Golden. And obviously, seeing as how this is the longest video I've done for this series, it clearly shows how much I enjoyed this one over the other ones. Anyway, next time we see each other again, it will be for the final book in the Fate of the Jedi series, where Abeloth, well, I guess won't be ultimately destroyed, because you need the Mortis Dagger to kill her, and we'll never really know what happened with that unless Legends gets continued, which is kind of sad. But I hope you all would join me for that epic journey, and until then, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.